Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we have a talk about Linux projects such as a distribution, a desktop environment, application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics out there. Anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate. I'm a Linux, fitness, and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost healthy obsession with OpenSUSE and Ubuntu, I guess. And with me today,
harmony.
That's right. With me today, I got a great group of guys. I've got Ben, Jason, Sravan, Jinda, Eris, Eric, Swift, and Colin just snuck in the door quietly, just as he snuck out quietly
Mr. Late.
last week. But
He dove through the last second.
He dove through the wall at the last minute.
And I really enjoyed that. So how is everybody?
Excellent.
Well,
Doing
great.
Having a great night and feeling 100%.
G'day all.
Excellent.
That's good to hear.
Name.
Hello, Colin.
Colin, what's up, buddy?
I had to bail last week. Had some things I had to do, so
It happens.
It's not your fault, Colin.
Well, maybe it is. You don't know. So
no, it was my fault.
Hey, you know.
So if you have not done so already, do a straw poll. We're going to be talking about CachyOS or CachyOS. I don't know. Cachy. I think it's Cachy.
I don't know
CachyOS.
how to even pronounce the darn thing.
It's a Cachy. A catch. I want to catch them all.
Catch.
Catch them all.
Uh,
OS.
It's like a Pokemon.
Yeah. So do that straw poll. Tell us how your experience was, or if you just don't have the time to do it, that's also cool.
I didn't.
We accept all the answers. So
I
I'm glad
didn't have time
today
to do it, sadly.
we're going to talk about that straw poll, dig into CachyOS, where I think Eric is probably going to take the lead on that because he actually did most of the notes, kind of trampling over as I'm writing notes. He's going right over them. It was great. I loved it. So
Let's all the round of
aspect, right?
applause. Eric's got every reason to be disappointed in me because I'm just now getting it installed.
Oh, no, nobody cares. So if you do it, you do it. If you don't, that's fine. No worries.
Sure.
So first, before we get to all of that distribution exploration goodness, what have you been doing in Linux and tech? Ben, you shared ahead of time that you were doing some nefarious activities. You were busting some encryption.
I've been going through computer HE double hockey sticks, so to speak, for my sister.
Gotcha.
So she came home from work yesterday. She called me up, woke me up in the middle of the morning when I'm normally drowsy and all this and that. I said, "What's going on, Michaela?" And she said, "Hey, I've got this laptop that's BitLocker encrypted." And I'm like, "Oh God, here we go." And she asked me, what can we do about it? And I said, "Well, you got two options. One, we can either de-encrypt it, or two, format the drive." And she said, this guy has important work stuff on it. Is there any way to work around this?" And well, I said, if you can get the password to the user account, we can fix it. And so she has the password to the user account, which sadly is Microsoft related, but we'll leave that as it may. So if we can get the BitLocker key, which I'm going to print out for her, and hopefully that will decrypt the drive and we won't have to go through a bunch of hilarity to fix it. So either way, she said if I can fix it, she'll pay me and everything will be fine. So yeah. But the worst case scenario is they have to write the scripts all the heck over again, and you know, he'll still pay me, but it won't be as much. So, you know, we're just gonna have to see how it goes and hope things don't go to a crappy situation.
Wait, so you did encrypt it, or you're working on
I'm working on unencrypting.
Oh, okay. All right, I see. So I was under the impression that you got it done.
Because the computer came from the factory encrypted, apparently. So.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there are some encrypted work files that they want to preserve, and oh my God, it's just insane.
Got it.
But either
So,
way,
what are you going to use
so,
to remedy it?
well, like I said, the machine's running Windows on it, and I would put Linux on it, but that's not the route the company wants to go down. But because that would again risk them losing their stuff that they worked on. So they are asking me to find the encryption key and take care of it. So she brought home the person's password. I'm like, oh God. So I'm going to log into their Hotmail account and see on their machine if I can decrypt it and make it all sparkling bubbles for them. So that's my plan, is to, finish the job and hope I can make everybody's day bright and sparkles again. So
Got it. Well, it sounds like a fun
fun piece
thing
of
you got
work.
going on. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I wish you all the
Anyway,
best with that. That it goes just smashingly well, and
hopefully I make a little money.
yeah, if you can, but if you can learn something, I think
Learn
that's
something out of it. That's the important part. Yeah.
right. Learn something out of it. So
All
I want
right.
to share a quick little thing about something
Yes.
that Steve's very own he shared with me, and I have subsequently started using. Has anybody here ever used Synergy or Barrier before?
Yep. Use it every
Yep.
day.
Okay, so one of the problems I've been having since switching to Wayland, I don't know, was it about almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, was that as I should say, switching and haven't switched back. I've done Wayland in between there. Was that there was no way to do Barrier or Synergy with a Wayland desktop until Steve's very own shared this thing. So I guess it's upstream from all of them. It's called Deskflow. Has anybody heard of Deskflow?
No.
No. So there is a Flatpak. It's also in the open source repositories. They also have packages you can download right from their GitHub. And I tell you what, I've been using it now. Just started using it. I think last week a little bit. Like basically when this show ended, I installed it and then was playing with it a little bit, and then I've since used it on so both clients and servers essentially in some different arrangements. So switching like this one computer back from server to client depending on what I'm using it for, and also using a Windows client as well. And I got to tell you, it's been pretty great. So if you want to have that virtual KVM, I'm sorry, I should say, what is it? It's a virtual KVM, and it allows you to control multiple computers with one keyboard and mouse. And it truly works swimmingly well. So
yeah, especially the ones that are seamless, right? This is the kind where it just works without you needing to like switch stuff and
right. So I just like right now I can just drag my mouse over to the neighboring computer. It goes right on that screen. I can do whatever I want. So I've essentially just given myself another screen here so I can do all the YouTube controls over on a separate machine, just like I'd done before, and anything I can, like, just so I don't disturb this computer as much as possible, so I can just look at it without moving stuff around. And I gotta tell you, if you have not tried it and you have to control multiple computers with one keyboard and mouse, check out Deskflow. There's a Flatpak. Go right to the GitHub, and I'm sure Jinda found it already. Cody is hilarious.
yeah, it's interesting because Synergy apparently sponsors them. So the fact that Synergy, you said Synergy wasn't working for you?
No. So I did purchase Synergy like some 10 years ago too. And
Also, one more thing to update about Synergy and Barrier. So Barrier has been forked. I didn't know about it. Barrier has been forked, and the new project is called Input Leap. So,
Input Leap.
Yep, don't use Barrier. Barrier has not been maintained since 2022, and the main maintainers have forked, and the new project is more community driven. Is that Input Leap? Maybe that will work for you. because barrier has not been maintained well for several years now, but input leap has been recently. Yep.
Oh, okay. So I just read Deskflow is the official upstream project for Synergy. So if Deskflow is working, then maybe at some point Synergy will work.
I just hopped on because I've checked this numerous times, and last time I checked on the Synergy page, it wasn't working. So it does say Synergy 1 and Synergy 3 now have experimental support for Wayland on Linux. So
Okay.
they're working on it, but it doesn't. I don't see a. Oh, there's a download page.
Yeah, there must be some reason that they haven't been able to push whatever Deskflow's done downstream. Anyway, that's really cool. I used to use physical KVM switches, obviously in the server room, but then in my office where I'd have multiple computers. And I mean, it was nice to use the same keyboard and mouse, but it was kind of a pain to have to switch. So these ones that are seamless seem like a really nice solution. I don't remember them being available when I was doing that kind of work. So yeah, that's pretty wild.
So
And you're
what,
using the same, is it the same monitor as well, or do you have multiple monitors?
multiple monitors.
So each computer has a different monitor. Okay.
Yeah, so I can go jump from one computer to another and use them all.
So
as
it's not
one.
like a remote desktop. You're actually just looking at the desktop of the machine, but you're using a single keyboard and mouse. Okay.
And things like
Actually,
copy and paste
I've
work
tried
too.
using it over Tailscale, so I can remote do it like somewhere in a different room or different house.
How does that work with one monitor though? You're actually
Yeah,
switching monitors as well, or switching desktops, I guess.
yeah. I just tried. Like it works over Tailscale. Like most of my computers are linked through Tailscale, so I don't bother like redoing the IP addresses. So it works through that. Sometimes it's a pain because I forget that I have a barrier configuration which takes it there. So my mouse is gone somewhere which I can't see.
Yeah, that could be a
That's a
danger.
fun experience sometimes.
So I will also mention, unfortunately, because Wendy just asked, she said, does copy and paste work? And I just tested it because I hadn't had a need for it up until you asked, and no, it does not. So, boo.
Try input leap. They say it works on Wayland. I haven't tried it yet, but copy and paste works in input leap.
Oh, from on Wayland.
I'm not sure. You have to try, and you can tell us.
Well, we'll find out. I may try Synergy 3 and see how that works too, because I did pay for a license for it, so it would be licensed and everything. So I'll give that a whirl as well. But anyway, so Wayland support is at least there enough that I can. It's there enough that I can use it, and it'll make things at work a little bit better in my office. So pretty excited. All right. I guess that means it is now time for the straw poll. If you have not done so already, check out that straw poll and fill it out. Say, give your opinion.
Okay, as far as the poll, I don't have any replies, I think, this week. And the question was, of course, since between the distro dive into which best describes your experience with CachyOS. See if somebody can vote more. So the number one response was with 21%, it is good. Followed with didn't have enough time, busy with life, busy with work. Changed again. So that's now the number one answer, followed by 20%, it is good. And then followed by 15%, it is okay. 15%, text penguin. 10%, it is amazing. 10% not interested in this exploration. 5% did not have a good time with it. You're muted, Nate.
Thank you. We haven't had that in a while. So I did not have a good time with it. That was a last
That was
on the
number
list.
one.
Yeah.
That was number one. I changed again, and they're tied with it is good now.
Okay. Well, I didn't have enough time. Yeah. Anyway, either way, so for those that tried it, they said at least it was good. Yeah, I thought it was good. That's what I voted. I thought it was very interesting for sure. So
This distro's not immutable, right? I think Michael said
Mm-mm.
that this is immutable. This is not immutable, right? Because the
No,
installer
it's
uses Pacman, I think.
yeah,
No, it's not immutable. It's not.
it's a it's Arch based, which I know that's probably what everything that Servan ever wanted. So there's that.
Mm.
Let me log back into it. So who here had a chance to give it a try? Oh, also Sean, welcome.
I played with it a little bit.
little bit.
I haven't used it before.
You have used it before.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I think I remember you using it, Colin.
And Broken Eaves, he uses it. He was using it a fair bit there for gaming at one stage. But they have their own, I think from memory, don't they have their own repositories? And
Yeah.
I know they've got
they
a lot
do.
of tools and stuff, but they got their own repository to somehow speed up and increase the performance of the distro itself. So
Yeah, so they compile the packages from Arch
Right.
repositories in x88,
Right.
x86-64 v3. So it's most modern CPUs are x86-64 v3, but Arch they compile it for general x86-64 to support older computers too. It's more generic
right,
compilation.
right.
So it's just a simple flag. You can set a simple flag when you're like building packages, when you do make package. So yeah. So I actually know the creator of CachyOS. I've not been in contact for a while, but yeah, I used to discuss with compiling packages because we both share interest in compiling packages and distributed compiling and remote compiling. We had a lot of common interest there. So yeah, he has like servers, like he runs everything through GitHub runners. I'm not sure what he does now, but yeah, GitHub runners, because everything is automated. So anytime there's a new update, like in Arch, he downloads the package build and then recompiles it and then pushes. Like everything is automated.
Got it. Well, I guess
So
we should
I was going to
get into it.
mention that I was going to give a caveat that I know that Phoronix made some testing back when I think Ubuntu was thinking about going to the V3 or V4, I forgot something like that, and there was talk about SUSE and I don't know some other distros. And he did notice that in some workloads there was actually a slowdown compared to like a more generic kernel or packages. Yeah, it wasn't always, but it was in some cases.
Well, if you can find that article, I would love to read that because I didn't find that in any of my digging out there. That's interesting. Cool. Well, I just want to cover some rules real quick. So I say this every time. May as well just say it again. But the intent is to talk about the different aspects of this operating system and discuss your experience from having used it, explored it, poked around, tried to get us a break and whatnot. So this is a discussion that we need to make sure it's as objective and constructive, and I want to avoid any disparaging remarks like it's garbage. But say things like, "I wish it did X, Y, or Z." The point is to highlight the positives, but not to ignore the lowlights of the project, because this is a labor of love for somebody. So let's not poo-poo on it. So a little bit about CachyOS. I know, Eric, did you want to take that on? Since
I don't care. Doesn't matter.
yeah,
You want
go
to do
ahead.
some of it, I'll do some of it, or whatever.
Yeah, sure. We can toss it to whoever wants to do it. In fact, if somebody else would like to read a part of it, there is a link to the show notes in the meeting chat, and you can go ahead and follow along if you like.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I just went to their website and really wanted to understand why Cachy was different than the other Arch-based distros that are out there. And I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but the optimization aspect. And so according to their website, CachyOS is designed to deliver lightning-fast speeds and stability, ensuring a smooth and enjoyable computing experience every time you use it. Whether you're a seasoned Linux user or just starting out, it's an ideal choice. It's built on Arch, as we mentioned. It features optimized Linux CachyOS kernel, utilizing the advanced BORE scheduler for unparalleled performance. And when you dig down through the website a little bit, there's a section, it's actually on the wiki, about why you'd want to use CachyOS. And they explain it as CachyOS offers a polished Arch experience, complete with a user-friendly installer, pre-configured desktops, and performance optimizations without compromising the user experience and security of the system. And they go through some of the highlights, which are optimized packages and repositories, which we were just touching on. And they claim to create optimized packages for various hardware configurations, including x86, 64, v3, v4, and Zen 4 Plus systems. And it ships a highly requested AUR package. So the highest, I guess, requested AUR packages are also maintained, or there's a version of them that would be compiled this way as well. There's a custom kernel tuned for performance and stability, aside from the CachyOS base kernel patch that that tunes various kernel parameters to improve desktop responsiveness. They also cherry pick promising patch sets that have not been mainlined or not in the stable revision of the kernel. The patches undergo internal testing before being shipped to users to ensure that stability isn't impacted. Curious to know what that testing process is. There's got to be some sort of like line lists.
Yeah, that would be neat to know. Maybe it's like
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like some games or some like demanding games
Yeah.
that they play.
Yeah, something. There's probably just got to be some benchmarking system. Custom CPU scheduler support. So, and this is kind of where they talk about how the default scheduler that comes shipped is based on the EEVDF, or earliest eligible virtual deadline first algorithm, and how it's tuned to divide available CPU time fairly among all tasks, is mostly geared for throughput-oriented workflows. And their version of the kernel configures some of those tunables to prioritize desktop responsiveness over sheer throughput. So they're changing, and I remember doing things like that in Gentoo a long time ago, picking certain flags to do that based on, what had been suggested. So it's interesting to see them doing it here. And they're saying EEVDF by design wasn't meant to be used for desktop interactivity. With that in mind, CachyOS ships kernels patched with the BORE, or Burst-Oriented Response Enhancer scheduler, that introduces an additional property to assign tasks requiring high responsiveness more CPU time compared to tasks that don't, based on their burstiness.
I wonder if there's any overhead in that sort of flagging certain tasks for one thing versus another.
It probably happens so fast that you
It's
wouldn't
basically
even
a
notice.
different scheduler, Nate. Again, there are trade-offs for every scheduler. It's a different scheduler. I forgot what the default is.
So in 6.12, the Linux kernel enables the ability to hot plug BPF schedulers and replace the fair scheduling class with a different scheduler. To facilitate this, CachyOS provides first-class support for SCEDX schedulers. So I guess you're able to hot plug and swap them.
Yeah, interesting note about schedulers. We were actually discussing about trying out different schedulers for the Raspberry Pi, but it went nowhere. I didn't find much difference in different schedulers. Again, probably because Raspberry Pi isn't that powerful, and I was not probably utilizing it to the full extent. But yeah, we tried different schedulers.
Gotcha. So one of the other reasons that they think it's worth trying is custom customizable installation process. And I agree with this. I like having an online install process where the ISO is just a normal size, but then you can choose from different desktops. And that seems to be kind of an Arch only thing. Like I rarely have ever seen that. I don't know if I've ever seen that on like an Ubuntu or Debian base. I'm sure it exists, but it almost always seems to be something like Endeavor or, Cachy, one of those systems that has an installer like this where you can pick.
Like I think the reason for this is Backstrap. So with Backstrap, you can just create a boot rootfs from scratch pretty easily, and then you can add a desktop environment with again different package lists. So I think Arch commands and the way you do an Arch install makes it easier to do these things on the fly.
So they're saying the installation process allows you to do customization around desktop environments, boot managers, kernel flavors, file systems, and then custom packages that you might want to slipstream into the installation process. So I didn't have any problems. We're going to talk about installation separately, but I thought it all seemed very familiar. And then they maintain, like a lot of distros, this reminds me a lot of something like Manjaro, right? Custom repositories, because they're maintaining some set of the Arch package base themselves. And then they also have their own custom applications, so that you'll notice if you launch the desktop that Firefox, or the only browser there, I guess, is Cachy. And the Cachy browser is a fork of Firefox with a more secure config and patches from Gen 2 and performance optimizations. I didn't notice a huge difference, and I also thought that it was, I guess it's just interesting that you would choose to do this. But I'm curious to hear if anybody else saw a difference in the Cachy browser versus Firefox. But they have a kernel manager, a Hello app, which is their welcome screen. They have their own package installer, which is kind of like a popularity on, I don't know if they call it that anymore, but basically the most popular software. It's just a shortcut for you to pick like your browser or different things like that. Rate mirrors, which obviously if you've ever used Arch, there's a lot of different mirrors, and the rate mirrors just let you find the fastest ones. Systemd boot manager, which is kind of nice because you can control the systemd boot process from a GUI. And
look at that.
the last,
I didn't even look at that.
Item they. Oh really?
Yeah.
The last thing they have in terms of reasons why you'd want to try is their community, which they claim is the most important aspect of Cachy, their ever-growing community. Without the community, Cachy would never be able to reach where it is now, and they assist each other, tips and tricks and all that stuff. So I'll take their word for it because I didn't really do anything with the community. But Nate, you want to take over installation?
Sure. Yeah, no, I didn't explore anything in the community. I just want to kind of comment on some of that. I didn't do any, so it automatically ranked the mirrors. So I guess I wouldn't have seen that. It was probably an invisible process. The package installer, I just want to comment. I really do like the package installer. It's a little bit more synaptic and honestly, I think that's just like MX has got a very similar package installer.
It's the same installer as MX, right? I don't know where.
Is it?
I don't know if MX makes it or they get it from upstream somewhere. But yeah, it's like the same installer that they use for packages, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah, it looks the same.
I think it's pretty great, actually. It's a nice.
Because the way
easy.
MX has it, it has like Debian packages, their own packages, Flatpak, and I don't remember if there's something else it has there. But the Cachy one is only Pacman packages, I think.
Yeah, and it really I don't think you're not going to use it to maintain your system or install all the software. Like it's more or less popular top item, the most popular of this type, like internet, browsers and Office applications and things like that. So it's I think I've heard it called popularity contest before, and I don't know why that keeps popping in my head, but basically the idea that they're giving you a very stripped down system where
Mhm.
it's just the bare essentials, and then they assume that a lot of people will want to add these specific, you know, applications, and so they're giving you a fast track way instead of having to go into Octopi or
Mhm.
to a command line and install it that way.
Yep, and it's like a more simplified, curated, a little bit less flashy, but very fast, very responsive. I don't have to wait for things to load. Yes, it's less friendly looking, I guess, but
It did install fast though. You're right, because I think I
yeah.
installed 5 or 6 things, and I was really surprised. But I'm always surprised at how fast Arch installs stuff.
Mhm.
So, and I haven't used Arch in a while. So,
I have to agree. Excuse me. It's not friendly looking, but it is a front end instead of using the terminal, right? So I mean,
Right.
that's an
Yeah.
advantage.
yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I just really appreciated it. That's really what I'm get at. So I think they did a great job. Yeah. If MX uses the same one, it looks similar now that you say that, Eris. So anyway, I like it. It scores big points with me. But anyway, I just want to comment on that. And then I thought the hello, the CachyOS hello, I thought that was a really nice touch as well, because basically it's the same thing they use for when you do the live boot, the live CD, live USB, whatever. And so but they have the added option of installing. I thought that was pretty cool. And the kernel manager, did you play around with that much?
I looked at it, but it was kind of running the stable default kernel.
Yeah.
And didn't really look like there was a lot of variability in terms of like it was all 6.12 or 6.13. Like it was maybe up to 6.14, but it wasn't like what's the one I'm thinking? Is it Mint? Maybe one of them has where it's like major differences. Like you've got the 5 series LTS and then the 6 series, and then like even the sort of cutting edge ones if you have like AMD hardware and stuff.
Yeah, these are all like 6 series, but there's 6.5, 6.1.
No, maybe it's Manjaro. I think Manjaro, their kernel manager, has those major leaps or like major, long-term 5 series current release and then
Mhm.
testing releases.
Well, the part that I thought was interesting is, so they have different kernel options that you can just select. I didn't mess with that at all, and I don't know why I didn't think of it to mess with. I looked at it and thought, oh, that's neat. But I like how they have like a hardened version. So I don't know who does the hardening and how it's tested, but I thought, if let's say maybe you have a situation where you want to lock a kernel down or lock things down to a more hardened state, I don't know how resilient this is going to be as far as being able to roll other packages or whatever. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty cool. So if you have maybe...
That's interesting. They have a Zen and long-term stable hardened, but they don't have an what's the scheduler one? Oh, geez, I just had it and I forgot.
They have a Bohr.
Real time. They don't have a real time.
Oh.
It does say RT, doesn't it? Doesn't it say something about
Is there
RT
an
R-
RT one?
in the website?
There's RC.
They have RT Bohr 6.13.0.
It says offers a variety of scheduler options, including
Oh, I see it. I see
EDF,
it.
and
But
then
it
at
just
the end it
says
says
stable.
and
Yeah,
RT.
okay, I see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't call it out. Like all the other ones, they call out as. I wasn't looking at the file name or the package name. I was looking at the description.
Oh. Anyway, so I thought I just thought it was cool because I don't have a purpose right now for testing like different kernels in different situations at this time, but I can see a situation where like maybe if you wanted to test, if you're like doing instrumentation and you wanted to monitor things or read data from specific tools. Like I'm thinking more like for like on a Raspberry Pi, we can have all those GPIOs. I wonder if something like this would be useful in that regard. I think real time is usually used more for like for
Like audio
instrumentation
production and stuff.
or audio. Yeah. But I think isn't real time more like power intensive? Like
It's
it
low
utilize-
latency. That's really what it comes down to. Is
Can we talk
usually
about low
real-time
latency
with-
kernels?
Yes, absolutely.
Thomas used to talk about how it was good for gaming. I don't know if that's true,
Yeah.
but that's what with the Drugger OS. I think they had an RT kernel because of that.
I miss Thomas and his enthusiasm for low latency. Yeah,
That's his passion, isn't it?
at least at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then a couple years
So the
ago, he
person-
got a girlfriend, and I haven't seen him since.
Oh God.
That happens.
Yeah.
I got some thoughts to share, Nate.
Sure.
Well, I actually just finished installing it, but I picked I saw their picture in Calamares of the Hyperland edition, and I was like, hot dang, I want to try that. So I just got up to SDDM, and I have a little bit of experience with Hyperland using Jock Coolit's Hyperland, actually. And that version of Cachy actually intrigued me. And I said, what the heck? I'm going to give it a shot and see what the heck it looks like. I got to just remember my password. The laptop I installed it on was on the floor. Got it. And, there we go.
So that probably segues pretty well into the installation. So you said you chose Hyperland. Yeah. So there are
Yes.
there are numerous options. It does have
There
the
are a
Calamares installer,
slew.
and then it uses Butterfest by default, which is cool. I know that Snapper is an option. I don't know if that was installed by default or not. I didn't check. But you have numerous desktop options. You have Plasma, GNOME, XFCE, BSPWM, I don't know what that is, Budgie, Cinnamon, Cosmic, i3, Window Manager, Hyperland, LXDE, LXQt, Mate, OpenBox, Qtile, Sway, UKUI, never heard of that, and Wavefire. So I think they probably win the award for most desktop environments. Or I'm sure
In the
Servan,
installer.
is that like an Arch thing?
Not definitely. We used to do that, but it was a very difficult time supporting all the window managers, so we cut those down.
Okay.
Yeah, but we used to do BSPWM is like a window manager for binary trees or something. I've never used it. I've tried like test installs, but it's like a window manager. There's a niche audience for that.
Okay.
Well, I installed the UKUI or something. That's the one that Ubuntu Chilling uses. They created, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Own custom. It uses Qt and GTK somehow to make a desktop environment, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting desktop.
So
Yeah.
it's like GNOME.
Sure.
I had issues with it, but it was interesting to install.
Yeah.
I think it's the Ubuntu Chill and user interface, isn't it, or something like that? I think.
Probably that's what it stands for. Yeah, that
It
makes
is.
sense.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of videos about that. It was sort of like a promising desktop, but a few things missing here and there, but it's not too bad.
I actually started the first install I did with Cachy was Cosmic, and it refused to log in. It just kept
Oh, really?
looping. Yeah, it kept looping. Well, it wouldn't even load the login screen. No, actually,
Right.
excuse me. It loaded the login screen initially, and then I would log in, and then it would just keep like as if it was trying to fail over or something, and it literally would just never fail. It just kept looping, and I was just like,
Yeah, I wonder if
well.
they put the greeter, because I learnt this morning actually there's a greeter for Cosmic, but it's installed on, because I'm running this laptop here with Cosmic, right? It's installed in there, but it doesn't work. So I use the Plasma one. What's the name of that one? What's the name of the Plasma greeter? What's that one?
SDDM.
drawing a blank.
That's
Yes, SDDM. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, it uses SDDM, and that seems to work fine for now. But SDDM is not the nicest looking thing out of the box, I must say. It
It
looks
was
like
a-
it comes
No.
from
It was
90s.
an independent project, but recently it got taken over by the KDE project, I think.
Right.
Wait, what got taken over by the KDE project?
SEDM.
STDM.
Oh.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of
Agreed.
a KDE, I think, and then they took it over.
So they're going to probably spruce it up a bit, I would say.
I thought it has been a part of it for a long time. Because I thought it, or has it just been the default that they've used?
It's the default for Plasma, but I don't think it was part of the team. It was a separate project.
No fooling. Hey, you learn something every day. That's 2 things today I've learned. Maybe 3.
What
That's
was
a
the
lot
first
to
one?
learn.
What's that?
What was the first one you learned today?
I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember what I learned.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I can check my notes.
Those
Probably not
Eric
that
doesn't write
important.
over them.
So, as far as application selection, since this has, you can install Flatpak. Did anybody here install Flatpak just to test them out?
I did.
Because I find
I
that
still like Flatpak.
yeah,
Good.
Exactly. I was gonna say I like Flatpak. It's just a nice. I just think it's the most convenient way to get applications now. Does that make me a chump?
Yep, for sure.
Makes me a chump for sure.
No,
I use
don't
it-
think
No,
so.
because if you think about it, the whole point beyond just a way to distribute software is that it does keep it abstracted away from your base system. So it's, one of the things about Arch, well, about any Linux distro, but in the past, about all Linux distros was that all the packages were native packages. And then you'd have, inevitably cruft and a lot of sort of junk pile up eventually. And so by using something like Flatpak, plus Flatpak is the way that some developers are now officially releasing their software. So even though the source code may be compiled, like if I have a choice between a native package in Arch, I'll probably do the native package. But if I have to go to the AUR, if I can get that same thing on FlatHub, then I would much rather get it on FlatHub than use an AUR package.
Yeah. Well, it's at least had some testing. It's and it kind of it has a collection of things to ensure that it works.
Yeah. Something I found interesting once I got into the desktop is the ButterFS
It's default.
assistant.
It's not
ButterFS
ext4.
assistant. Well, the fact that there's an assistant GUI application that lets you look at like setups, snapshots, and then look at the snapshots themselves, browse them, restore them. So I never knew there was such a thing, and I could imagine that being a very handy thing, a very useful thing. I actually had an install of, I want to say it was like PopOS or something, and my home subvolume had filled up, and it was because I'd done something weird with encryption, and it was duplicating the files somehow, and I could not get it to stop. I spent literally hours like trying to figure out what the heck it was doing, and I just didn't know anything about ButterFS, and that was complicating it. And then whatever I had used to encrypt things was complicating it even more. And so I imagine that maybe having a tool like this would have made it a little easier, but I'm not sure. Anyway.
What's the tool name again?
It's called BTRFS Assistant.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the maintainer of that is a EndeavourOS dev. It's separate from our project, but yeah, it's Dalto. Yeah, I've been using it for like 4 years now on all my ButterFS installs. It's very handy for a GUI tool.
Yeah.
There are some command line options also if you want command line.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's something I want to do. The more I learn about snapshots in terms of the efficiency of being able to run a block level backup to, you know, the fact that it takes up so little space and is nearly instantaneous and like all that good stuff, instead of doing this like duplicative, you know, disk file level where you're like literally, you know, syncing files and comparing them and, you know, all that stuff. Like it just seems like block level is so much cleaner. But I just don't know anything about it.
Well, as you're probably well aware, I use OpenSUSE.
Nah.
Wait,
no.
No
wait a
way.
minute.
No.
Serious?
Everybody stop what they're doing. Nate, why didn't you tell anyone?
I don't know. It just
Why
slipped my
is he
mind.
telling us now?
So they have a snapshot tool that I use, Snapper. I don't know if Snapper's the same thing or if it integrates with Snapper. Yeah, Snapper settings. So it looks like it does integrate with Snapper, which that's pretty cool. I gotta say, I think I like this tool a little bit more than the Snapper tool because it has a little more. You can set some automations with this. It looks like the Snapper assistant.
Yes.
And by the way,
I set it up before we started, and it's automatically captured hourly snapshots. So now when I look at, I set it up 3 hours ago, so I've got a manual one at 6:40, and then one that happened at 7, and one that happened at 8, automatically.
so what I think would be kind of cool is, can I say, I've heard of people doing this. I just don't know how it's done. It's like, oh, just do Btrfs send. Like, I don't know how to do that. I wonder if you can do something like Btrfs send with this as well.
I don't think so. Maybe
No?
he added it recently. It's for mainly. It's a GUI. You can say it's a GUI fronted for Snapper, like sort of. So it makes, like, unless like you're really like terminal like pro, like it's very hard to manage all these Snapper settings like via command line. So this makes it like much easier. And also because of the GUI, you can also view all the snapshots at a single place very easily.
Yeah.
And it makes restoring snapshots also somewhat easier. Otherwise, you have to do a bunch of Snapper commands.
Yeah, even if I have to go into a command line to execute a command, like a very specific command, like that's fine. But I do like having the GUI to be able to just
It's more
visualize
convenient.
it. Yeah, exactly.
It makes less, like, sometimes these complicated commands in the command line are mistake prone. So it's better to have a GUI which is actually more reliable.
Totally. Yeah.
This is
Like I just
interesting.
found this,
Nate's found a tool he likes. It could be he used to use OpenSUSE next week.
Well, it's actually available in the OpenSUSE repositories, so I can just use it there.
Okay, fair enough.
It's the same Snapper core.
Okay.
Like I'll bring this up later, but in terms of a GUI tool, I found one for Podman called Pods, and I prefer Podman over Docker, and it's really such a nice presentation of like which, you know,
what's it called?
Pods you have, the images, volumes, Pods, Pods.
Pods. Okay.
I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'd like to check that out too.
So are we general talking about this distro now? Because I was going to make a couple.
Yeah,
I think so.
But because one thing, because I can't remember, I did use it a little while ago, but is this tied? Do you need to use the GUI? You can't just do general Arch commands in the terminal, can you? Or you can't?
Yeah, you can. Yep.
Yeah, you can. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because they have the repository set up so that if you're using Pacman or Yay or, you know, some kind of a R helper or whatever, like it will still work. It's just their repositories are set at a higher priority, basically. So if you're installing one that, let's say, they've done the optimization on, and it's in the repo they maintain, it's going to be the candidate that gets installed over
Right.
something
So
else.
you can still Pacman -S and install
Mhm.
something, and you can still do. Oh, okay. Fair enough. I just couldn't remember whether you could do that or not. So, but obviously updates that there'll be a different command because you got different repos for them, right?
No,
No,
still
it's
just
all.
Pacman.
So the way Arch repos work is like you have a pacman.conf and all the repos are set in a particular order with some set priority. So there's only
right.
one file.
Right.
So your pacman calls that conf file before running any command. So it's already there. You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
So if the maintainer, I'm just looking at this from a perspective of what can happen sometimes if a maintainer decided he didn't want to do it or they didn't want to do it anymore, that would probably still run or function, right? Is
Yeah,
that correct? Yeah.
the best way in that case is like remove those repos from pacman.conf, replace
Yeah.
those packages with Arch packages, and now you're on Arch install.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Right.
And also in terms of maintaining packages, I think it was before you got here, but Savron was saying that the developer has it set up to, if there's a new release of a package and it needs to go through that process of optimization and recompiling, like it'll just do it automatically.
Right. Oh, okay.
So there's no intervention necessary, I guess.
Fair enough. Because
But,
we talk about Manjaro, right? So Manjaro are different. They're in a different league again, I think, because they do a lot of changes. You can't just, if you start doing
right.
Pacman -S and all that, you could mess up the system from my knowledge anyway, from what I know. I think it still works, but it's not a good idea.
That's
Is that right?
different.
No, it still works.
Like Manjaro is different from Cachy in the sense that all the repos in pacman.conf are Manjaro repos. There's no Arch anywhere. It's completely Manjaro.
Right.
Cachy and other Arch-based distros are a mixture of their own repos combined with Arch repos set in a particular order based on the distro's philosophy. But so Manjaro is Arch or Arch derived from Arch. It's not Arch. It's not an Arch-based distro.
Yeah, correct.
It's totally different from other Arch-based distros.
That's what I thought. And that's probably the advantage of something like CachyOS, because they do give you the close to the Arch way as much as possible with an added twist of their repos and stuff. So I think that's a good thing, to be honest. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and it reminds me a lot of, Endeavor, those types of Arch-based distros where they give you a custom install process, and then like Endeavor, they only have, so they maintain their own repository, but it's for, as far as I know, only their tools that they can use.
It's a very small repo.
Yeah. So they're not. This is different because they're pulling in the native packages and recompiling them with the performance enhancements and stuff like that. So that they are maintaining a much larger repository, which I don't know how he's paying for that, honestly, because I'm sure it's not cheap. But
it's a VPS.
Okay, well, it seemed pretty quick. And everything I was doing from installing it. And do you know where he's based or where the hardware is based?
I forgot. I used to talk with him like 3 years ago.
Regularly. The distro itself, or are you talking about the repos, or like?
Well, everything's just seemed really fast. That's all. So there is a mirror list. So he's obviously got different mirrors around the world.
According to Distro Watch, the distro is German. It's from Germany.
Okay. But they must have mirrors around the world. I didn't really look into it, but because whatever mirror I'm hitting is fast. I mean, it's not like it must be a pretty decent setup on the VPS to be that quick. Although Pacman is quick. I always kind of forget how fast it is as a package manager compared to especially something like, Fedora.
Fedora's not too bad these days, I think.
They're much faster now.
Yeah. It used to be
pretty slow. I don't know.
DNF used to mean does not finish, but now it does a pretty good job.
It finishes, but it's just the refreshes kind of kill me. It's just like, doing a simple search sometimes can take like 30 seconds. You're just like, come on, this is ridiculous. So anyway,
I think it's because like versus like Debian and Ubuntu, you search from your cache, right? But I think what Fedora does is like, oh, let me update the cache since you want to search for something. So it's updating the cache in the background, and it's like, okay, now let me search for it.
Yeah.
Their update is slow, whatever it's done.
I will tell you, I will admit, OpenSUSE is a little bit slow too. But it's like the little old lady at the DMV who always gets it right 100% of the time. Sure, she's not very fast, but it's 100% accurate. While Arch sometimes, it's like doesn't always get it right.
I'm gonna just have to take your word for that.
And they're going to go to a new DNF version soon. I think they're testing out the next version of DNF.
Are they? Okay.
From my experience with Arch, when you're updating, the slowest things are a kernel and anything related to a kernel. They're all really, really slow to download for some reason. It holds up the whole process. So
Because those packages are larger in size.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
So the way the mirrors work in Arch is like generally most Arch-based distros, you set up like parallel downloads, but each package is its own lane. So it's like if it is a large package, it's not multi-channel. Like you download 5 packages at once, but you're always held up by the slowest one.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. Yeah, because it ends up always being the last one to complete. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it takes time.
Yeah, that's right.
It's one-to-one. You hit a mirror with like the one connection.
Okay.
And the smaller packages, they don't get downloaded faster, right? So they get replaced.
Yeah, they do. Yes.
Other ones, yeah.
I give Pac-Man credit for being the most entertaining package manager because you get to watch little Pac-Mans.
That's true. And prophetic in the chat, he says, "We lived through dial-up. We can deal with some things being slow." LOL. So
don't be an RPM apologist. I don't want to hear it.
So Eric, I think that was directed toward you. I don't know for sure.
100%.
I'm just guessing, based on the context, but I think that was a bit of a, you guys probably need to sort something out. Do you have like some unresolved something going on here?
No, he's being an RPM apologist. It's all right. I don't mind. No, RPM has gotten some DNF. RPM itself was atrocious. DNF has made it a much better process, and they continue to work on it. And frankly, it's not going to matter much anymore anyway, because if we start doing, the immutables and composable distros, you're not
it was
doing
just
as
a year
much
ago.
of that one-on-one.
It was just a year ago, Eric, that you were like, I don't get these immutable distributions. I don't care. And now you're like on the immutable train, apparently.
I think that train's coming, whether we like it or not, to be quite honest with you. So
I think,
and
go ahead. No, finish your statement.
I was just going to say, if they can, polish off the rough edges, if they can work, if it's literally a 1-for-1 replacement where I don't notice the difference, then I'd be happy to run it. I don't care, especially if it's an easier thing to maintain. Or I like the idea of customized images where basically it's set up the way that you would want, and so that you don't have to spend an hour installing different packages. It just comes that way. I think that would be pretty cool. Like bespoke images.
I think there's going to be, this is my prediction, and I get most things wrong. So my prediction is that what we'll see as a Linux in 5 years won't actually look like won't be exactly like anything we're looking at right now. I think it's going to be some combination of all these different positives, like all the different, like the pluses, to minimize the overall negatives of each of the different systems. I think so, but we can talk about that at another time. I want to get to Ricky because Ricky so patiently had his hand up. He's had like such a nice smile on his face. He obviously looks like he got a haircut recently. He's looking sharp. I don't know what's going on, but Ricky's looking very serious these days.
About CachyOS, I only lived in the distro for at least maybe a few weeks up to a month. But from the time I spent in it, I was mainly on XFCE mainly because I like lightweight environments and all that stuff. Um, I never played with the kernel manager or any of the tools. Mainly because I didn't really feel like playing with them. I just wanted a stable OS just to get my real work done every single day. So that's basically the reason why I used CachyOS for a little bit before eventually going full blown into StormOS essentially. So um for the time I spent in the distro, it was solid, it was really good, and I just don't really have much to say about it. It's a good distro.
That's good to hear.
Mm.
So you really so you lived in it, and so you really know what it's about. And that's good to know.
Yeah.
Nope. I did run
yeah.
into a interesting issue when I was doing the installation for CachyOS
What
or
was that?
Catchy, whatever you call it. Well, when I was trying to do the actual installation off the USB, when I was trying to attempt to do it on my laptop, it didn't have the option. You have the CachyOS option, you have like an NVIDIA option, and whatever else. As far as installers go, it didn't have the main, just regular CachyOS. It only had like the NVIDIA one or default. So I tried that, and then that brought me in, instead of booting into like a live USB, it brought me to a live user login screen. The username was live user, and then had a password. So I couldn't actually install the OS on the laptop. I ended up putting the same USB stick into a desktop, and it installed fine. But for whatever reason on the laptop, when I tried to do the installation, it was trying to make me log into a live user.
Interesting. I wonder why that is.
I've never seen that before. And I was not the only one that had this issue. I went to the forums and stuff like that to see if anybody else had this issue. They had a solution other than sticking it into a different computer and trying there. And there was a few people that were having the same issue, and I'm guessing it has something to do with the particular laptop I was using, which was this one was a old AMD laptop.
Now, I didn't cover this, but how I installed it. So I've been putting a little bit too much on my laptop, and I've been a digital nomad as of recent, so I have not been able to really sit down and do the things that I've wanted to do, like actually install it on hardware and so forth. So I ended up installing it on my server using KVM, but like a remote KVM session. So I have a remote, like, so I just bring up the virtual manager on my laptop, but the session is actually on the server. And one, I'm very surprised by the performance of piping the graphics data through the network. Very impressive. Don't know how they do that. It's got to be some magic sauce there. But it almost felt like native performance, even though I think when I run the desktop natively on that server, it feels worse. But anyway, so it was kind of fun doing that and being able to install it. Kind of like Mark Yu, how he would install things on VMware. Pretty cool. Remember Mark? Anyway, I did something similar to how he did, and I didn't have any problems installing it. It actually, everything worked really quite well. And I thought the installation process and the whole, like all the different tools, I really liked how I liked the whole presentation out of the gate. It didn't have a bunch of other like games and such. It should have Windows 95 version of FreeCell on there. I think that'd be a plus. If it had that, that'd be great. But as far as everything else, I thought it was just like the perfect amount of just stuff on there and all the basic tools. You didn't have to hunt for anything. And I thought it was really pretty great there. But it did get me curious, and I wanted to share some interesting information. So we talked earlier about the Bohr scheduler. Does anybody here know what that is? Because I didn't when I started this. So the Bohr scheduler, which stands for Burst Oriented Response Enhancer, is a CPU scheduler used in CachyOS to improve system responsiveness, so especially when it's under load. So in task management, your computer has many tasks it needs to handle, like running applications, background processes, and responding to your inputs. The scheduler decides which task gets to use the CPU next. Burstiness, so Bohr focused on something called burstiness. This means that it looks at how long a task has been using the CPU without giving it up, like when you're actively using an application. If a task has been running for a little while, a burst, Bohr gives it priority to finish what it's doing quickly, so it enhances its responsiveness. So it's better for interaction by prioritizing tasks that require immediate attention, like clicking on something in your game or desktop. Bohr makes your system feel snappier and more responsive even when it's busy with other tasks. And then a balancing act, while it might not be as fair as some other schedulers in giving CPU time equally to all its tasks, it aims to make your user experience smoother by ensuring interactive tasks get CPU time when they need it the most. So in CachyOS, the Bohr scheduler helps your system to react faster to your actions, making it feel more responsive, especially when you're doing things like gaming or working with multiple applications open. So I mean that seems pretty reasonable. I wonder what the downsides are. Did anybody look at that, or does anybody know? Sarvan, do you have any idea, like, if there are downsides to the Bohr scheduler?
I used to know, I forgot.
You've probably forgotten more than I've ever known.
Yeah, I played with all these things, but it's been a while since I touched all these. So
Got it.
maybe I'll slowly learn.
No.
Let's see.
Well, I just made the dumb move of the group, Nate.
Yeah?
I made a mistake in blowing away Hyperland.
Just unblow it away. Is there an undo button?
Well, I tried to reinstall their Hyperland settings, so I overwrote it with Jaw Coolitz by accident. And I totally didn't realize what the heck kind of impact that would do. So I tried to reinstall theirs, and it didn't. So now I have to start all the heck over again.
Ban.
But that's okay because I'm starting again, and at worst case, Ricky can help me set up Plasma instead.
Why not just create a new user and see if it works?
That is also a possibility, Sravan.
That's
Pick a
much
pen
better.
too. So I'm curious, Sean. I don't know if you're able to chat, but do you mess with like kernels and schedulers and so forth with Nix?
Occasionally, I'll jump back and forth between like the latest kernel or like the latest Zen kernel, depending on my mood. But they have quite a few kernels in Nix, but I really don't jump around too much. I usually just stay on the latest kernel that they have and keep it at that.
Got it. I don't know if have you played with other schedulers too? Is that something that you've
Not really, no.
Yeah, it's something I'm very interested in, but I guess I don't like. I wonder how things like Bohr or others would affect laptop battery performance.
Yes. Again, these are optimized for desktop.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah. Most of these schedulers, if you're trying to optimize burst performance, obviously it's not optimized for general purpose or battery performance. Again, many of the kernel optimizations, like I'm not talking about CachyOS, but in general, like it's better suited for desktop rather than laptop.
See, I would think that trying to race to get the task done quicker would allow more time to for the CPU to also to dissipate heat because it can come back down. Or unless maybe that's just not how it works.
But it's like your processor has to be capable, and you need to have enough cores. Laptop processors don't have as many cores, or are not as powerful, or don't have enough turbo.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things I just don't know. Like the more I learn, the more I realize I don't really know anything.
And also these kernels, based on what I've read and also some which I've tried, like configs and all, it's like individual use case and also your device specific. So you might find some kernel like suited to your device and your use case, but maybe not another kernel. So you really have to test and try out and benchmark. So benchmarking is a useful tool in sort of trying out these kernels. Just swap a kernel, do some benchmarks, see what suits you. Again, I think there are some benchmark tools which are different based on use case, so you can try different benchmarks to see what would suit you and find an ideal kernel for your computer and your use case.
I looked up the Bohr scheduler, any potential downsides, and really it comes down to pretty minimal things like extra complexity. So I mean, if you had to like debug something, it could be more complicated because of the way it works versus like a more standard scheduler. Potentially some more overhead because of the way it's trying to, look ahead and figure out which process would need more CPU, which then could lead to starvation for other processes that need CPU time not getting it because the scheduler is not acting effectively. But I mean, I think all of those are probably corner cases, and like to Severin's point, it's kind of sort of like, I guess I would say it's like compiling your own kernel specific to your hardware, where at one time I felt like that was something that was well worth my time because I actually saw a meaningful difference. But today, with the power of these multi-core processors, like, I just don't think it's worth the extra effort unless you just want to do it. But I do think it would be interesting in certain situations where you do have, let's say, like background processes running that tend to take a lot of system resources, like CPU in particular, and then you're still trying to use the system. Something like the Bohr scheduler might have a better experience using it because it's going to theoretically give whatever processes you're interacting with directly, higher priority. Although I've every time I played around with CPU priority, it just ends up not working out. Like, it doesn't work the way I think it's supposed to.
Yeah, I get that.
So
a lot of times I feel like
that's the kind of the and I just don't know what you'd be doing. Where, I mean, maybe gaming is one of those use cases where you would see a couple of frames per second difference or something. I'm not sure.
Gaming and streaming while gaming.
Oh, okay.
Intensive tasks.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could get that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Well, cool. So
right.
those of us...
It's something fun to learn about, though.
Yeah. I agree. I'm sure that if I tried to do something with scheduling, I would probably just make everything worse.
Yeah.
Well, you break it, you fix it.
That's right. So I guess the question that comes down to, for those of us that have tried it, will you stick with it?
I think that the next time I want to use an Arch-based distro for whatever reason, I'll probably try Cachy because I'm genuinely curious to see. Because a week's worth of testing, and I wasn't testing it constantly. So the testing I've done, it seemed to be a well thought out and put together system, and the only way to really know that is to use it. regularly, and use it for all of the things you would normally use any system for. So basically running it as your main distro for some amount of time. Yeah, I think it would be fine for that. I don't love that Cosmic didn't work, but Cosmic's new. I can't really expect that to be. But I mean, the other thing I did was use Plasma, because I haven't used Plasma in a long time. And so it was not only a Arch based, which I haven't run in a while, but it was also Plasma, which I haven't run in a while. So I think that would be a fun break, right? Challenge yourself. Don't get too comfortable. I feel like I've gotten very comfortable with just like Pop OS and
Yeah, nothing wrong with that either. So
Use what you like.
yeah.
I will say I'm gonna keep at least a VM of it around, just to like hop into periodically and see if it can tolerate me, I guess is the question. That's probably the more important question than can I tolerate it. So as far as Arch based distros go, now mind you, I've only been running it for a few days and not that intensely because I didn't have the time to really invest in it. But I would be interested in seeing how resilient it is. As far as like my Arch experiences, now I don't want Matt from Linux Out Loud to hear this, but he's not going to listen anyway, so it won't matter. But this actually was a compelling Arch distribution of all the Arch distros that I've used, because it had a lot of baked-in features that were compelling for me to experiment with and play with. Because the whole reason I like Linux is to play with it, to try new things out, to use, to shape it and conform it easily with whatever it is I want to do. So that's actually why I like this, because I have all the right there for me. They basically say here are the toys, go to town, and I don't see that very often. Maybe other Linux distributions do that. Maybe other Arch distros do that. I don't know. I haven't seen that before. Has anybody else seen that?
Probably in that one that Matt uses. What's the other?
Garuda?
The one with the color. Garuda, yes. They
Yeah.
have. I think they have more tools than CachyOS, to be honest.
Do you think though that with Butterfest snapshots, like if you have that configured and you did somehow bork, or an update messed up or something, isn't that sort of the point that you'd then be able to just go back and restore?
Yeah, I'd probably have to set up some sort of an automated update schedule though, because I know Arch doesn't deal well with not updating at a regular cadence. So that'd probably be the only downside I could see for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't run Arch because I don't know. I'm always more comfortable on a Debian/Ubuntu apt sort of base, and it's just what I use. But I was on Arch for quite a while, for years at one point, and just kind of, I don't know, something happened, or I just didn't like something. I think I got sick of needing to use like the AUR. This was before Flatpak probably. And I think I got sick of needing to use AUR and having stuff break on me. Like it would run fine for a certain period of time, and then someone would stop maintaining it, and then you were kind of stuck because it wouldn't work, or it would break, whatever. So, I've not always had the best experience, because Arches, they do have a lot of, certainly all of the more popular software in their repositories, which is nice because they have more software in their repositories than just about any other distro I can think of. And certainly because it's all up to date as well, which is nice. But if you have to go outside of that, and again, this was before Flatpak, the AUR could be painful, I guess is my point.
Right.
So then it just became,
Yeah, I think
I was trying to use something and it just wasn't working, and it annoyed me. So
Flatpak's sort of taken away some of those woes from packages that you need from the AUR and things like that. I don't know whether you can replace everything, to be honest, but there's probably.
I just saw that they're coming up with a way to. I think it was like something like system level services, or there was something that Flatpak was going to be able to do that would allow it to integrate even more tightly than it currently did. I have to find the news,
Right.
but yeah, it was something like that where, because there's sort of the way that's containerized right now, it's abstracted away far enough that even though it can access files, there's something about system processes or being able to publish like core files or something. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, I think they continue because there's so much emphasis on it right now between, all of the distros shipping it by default and then the reliance on it for these composable distros, mutable stuff, that I think it's going to improve in its capabilities, I think. So.
Oh, well, I've been running Arch, I think, for 3-4 years, I think, maybe even longer. But I've gone from the GNOME desktop to Plasma desktop, now on Cinnamon. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've been going through a type of learning process of Linux itself and creating your own ISOs and things like that with Esnix, and also following, what's his name? Eric Dubois. Those two guys really do some good work for creating your own distros and your own ISOs. So I've been going through that process and also, making my own tools, which I've been doing, so that, just with bash scripts and YAD and all that. So I've just been doing all this learning stuff. So, and I think Arch is probably the best one to do that on. But if I was to be running a normal distro, it'd probably be Linux Mint, I think. It's normally my go-to one most of the time, but haven't done that for a long time. But I just find Arch the best way to learn things. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
I mean, I think
Yeah,
Arch is great for that, for sure.
I certainly.
Yeah, I
refer
haven't
to
run
Arch
like
with
other distros too much, but I've learned so much using Arch. Like you see, right? I am able to have inputs on many things because I've tried so many things because it's easy to install. So I think Arch is a very good learning process, especially when you go through the installation and how packages work, how installation works. It's like you learn how systemd is set up, services. You learn a whole bunch of things about how your Linux system operates.
Well, I don't do it from the standard Arch install because I have my own ISO with the Calamares installer on it. But still, you do find that some services aren't running, and you got to learn how to get them up and running as well. So that's interesting as well, I must say.
Yeah, and there's definitely something to be said for learning and building up a system, and then also I think their wiki has been one of the single greatest resources for me over the years.
Yeah.
Just in terms of general Linux knowledge, it doesn't all 100% apply to every distro if you're not using Arch, but at least will usually point you in the right direction.
It can help with other bases, to be honest, but just depends what your issue is, isn't it? But yeah, it does definitely help you out in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Well, cool. All right. Well, I think we covered things. Any last thoughts about Cachy?
Well, I was pleasantly impressed with the 5 minutes I got to spend on it.
That's good. Maybe we can.
I think this would be one that we might want to come back to some point in the future, though, Nate. Like a future release of theirs or something.
Yeah.
At some point.
There are just so many Linux distros. It's hard to get to all of them.
There's a slew of them these days, yeah. I get you.
Although I wonder, is that number going up or down? What's the trend?
That's a good dang question.
I don't know.
Well, now you've got another interesting one would be now you've got Ike Doherty back on the job again. He's developing Serpent OS.
Serpent.
Yes.
Serpent OS, yeah, and Cosmic is one of the desktops. I can't remember what the other default desktop was. I'm not sure what the other default desktop. I know he's got Cosmic as one of them. I know that, but
Budgie,
interested to see.
Budgie
Oh,
is
Budgie,
another-
that's right. Yes, of course. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but yes, it's Budgie. You're right, and I'm interested to see whether he can keep that going, and hopefully just concentrate on 2 desktops, because you know what happened with the other one he was doing. What was the other one that Ike was doing? Solus.
Mhm.
Every time somebody has a project, everybody wants to ask for every desktop, right? I think Solus should have just remained on Budgie and just concentrated and focused on Budgie, because Budgie hasn't moved that much since they implemented it. It made some changes, but they're very slow, right?
Yeah.
So I just hope people don't start asking for, give me this desktop and give me that desktop. Just stick with the 2 desktops and be done with it. I'm hoping they do that and just focus on those only.
And if people want the other ones, they can do it their own selves.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't disagree. And that's why I think you see a lot of distributions where they call those things community releases. And they tend to be, a little off. What I was actually happy to see that Fedora it looks like they've promoted their spins to be more of official releases. They've always been really high quality. And it's a handful. It's not like every one like this, like Cachy has, but something like Cachy's just inheriting the work that's already been done in Arch. So it's not like they are like Solus has to do all that work themselves. So I agree with you. That's all stuff being taken away from the main development effort. But yeah, I get that.
It comes back to the fact that you can't make everybody happy, right? It comes down to that,
Yeah.
you try and do that,
I think
you're going to burn yourself to the ground.
yeah, that's right.
Well, the other point being too that if there are so many choices for distro out there, I get that maybe you'd have an interest in one of them specifically and hope that they have what you want. But ultimately, like if you really have to have a certain window manager or just something that isn't on that distro, then by all means, go find one of the 50 other distros that does have it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't beg the developer to do what you want them to do.
Not unless you're putting up some cold hard cash.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's different.
That's different.
Or maybe their source code.
Or that too.
I'll give you $500 to implement Budgie.
Done.
It might be more than that. That's actually, that would be cheap, actually.
That would be a cheap price to pay.
Yes, that would be. It would be.
Yeah.
All right, $650.
Oh,
651 and you got a deal.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh, cool.
651 and you got it.
Well, all right.
And you get one that actually works.
there you go.
And Dolphin has joined the chat.
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the housekeeping. So
Housekeeping.
next week is a news flight night. So if you have any news topics, go ahead and bring those to the saloon. And we can get to as many as we can. So if you have any discussion suggestions, distributions, applications, any poll ideas, whatever you got, send to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. And no, I don't care about SEO, so please don't send me any more of these improve my SEO with Linux Saloon. Don't care.
Oh, God.
But
SEO? What's that?
it's like searchability and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Discoverability.
That's how you get a garbage website to the top of Google.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
I
awesome.
mean, when those spam ones, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sell you crypto.
Linux Saloon is the second hit on Google. The YouTube channel, and the number one is tuxdigital.com/podcast or whatever /Linux Saloon.
Yeah.
So we're good. See?
So we beat
Someone
it
else-
already.
Somebody also tried to sell me a it's like linuxsaloon.com dot something else. It was like a CA or something like that. I think it was like, or CH. I don't know. I think it was like it's like some weird domain, like to somehow help me out. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I got a top level domain, linuxsaloon.com, .org, and .net. I don't have
Oh my
.biz. If you want to get that, it's all yours. All right. Well, I think so. We have a little extra time here. Got a few news articles here that have been just hanging out that we haven't talked about, and maybe we can talk about a few of these because I've wanted to, and you know how the conversations go, especially when you have Eric in the group. So,
Thanks.
hey, no problem. So I don't know if you've heard, but Ubuntu has considers taking it easier on software updates over the weekend. Has anybody ever had a software update break for them on a weekend?
No.
I haven't either.
I'm not
Not
sure.
that I can remember.
So Ubuntu developers are looking at extending their policy of not releasing stable release updates around the weekend, as well as not phasing them up to 100% during those weekend times either. This is a move to potentially avoid less headaches over weekends, especially for system server administrators that may be off, and separately for gamers, enthusiasts, home users that may be more active on their systems during the weekends and wanting to avoid updating downtime. Ubuntu developers are considering the altering of their weekend update policies. Julian Andrus Claude, I don't know. I would say Claude, Klode. Claude of Canonical laid out the proposal this week on the, this is like back in January, on the Ubuntu developing mailing list. So I always thought that if you didn't want to update in Linux, you just wouldn't. So doesn't it seem like kind of a unnecessary move?
I mean, there could be some people out there that can't resist doing the update. You know, they see it, they got to get, they hear about it, see it, whatever, they got to get it done. So I don't know, beats me. I don't update that often. And Colin, you're muted if you're talking.
He's probably talking
Colin,
to somebody
muted.
else. That's more important.
Oh, he is? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I actually have.
I'm trying to talk here and I'm muted.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's right. Colin, you're muted. You're talking to us. I
Hey,
wasn't
Nate,
talking
you're-
over you because I couldn't hear you.
Nate, Colin, you're muted.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
I actually have.
Sorry, Sean, I think you're
updates.
talking.
Yeah, I actually have updates scheduled on a daily basis on Nix. That's fine.
So I was going to
something
say,
I just roll back to the previous version and get things sorted out later.
Yeah, I usually update. I don't usually update on, well, either Saturday morning I'll update if I haven't done it like in a while. But like for this machine, I'll usually do updates on this machine here right before Linux Saloon because if something's going to break, I'm going to find out. Maybe it's a bad idea. Anyway, and then but typically I'll do updates on Sunday for me personally. And then at work, it's usually Tuesdays. Gives me a lot of time to fix things if necessary.
Yeah, I think that's
So what they're
that
saying
change would be
is-
for.
so what they're saying is if you update on the weekend, it's not going to update. Is that what they're saying? So if you
They're not
run an
releasing
update,
new ones.
right, okay. All right. Does it really matter? Would people know or they wouldn't know? Maybe people who are a bit switched on technically might know what's going on, but does it really matter or not?
Technically, it will slow down security fixes or whatever fixes they will do
Really? Okay.
until Monday.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I,
I
have
think
enough
this would be
systems.
a-
If something
a-
breaks, I'm good.
Yeah, this is more or less, I think, for enterprise stuff. It's a terrible idea to run updates over the weekend. Anyway, unless there's downtime. If there's downtime, then yeah, you kind of have to do stuff on the off hours.
Yeah, I
but
can-
ultimately, yeah, if you're letting your systems auto update over a weekend, and there's no one there to cover it, then that's not Ubuntu's fault. in
I
my
don't like
opinion.
auto updating anyway. I like doing it all manually,
So
personally.
Vince says in the chat, it matters in corporate settings. But it seems like, yeah. And then Run of the Dolphin says, only affects auto updates. So maybe it's the auto update folks that they're trying to shield from.
Yeah.
And then Vince says,
Yeah, because
it's
you
YMS
could imagine that they would.
has update
Sorry.
Tuesdays. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because you could imagine that even though they would say, well, don't enable automatic update, that people would still say, well, it broke, and like, okay, well, this could be a circular discussion. So ultimately, because the customer is always right, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have limited windows at work when I can update things that it minimizes
that's
disruption. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's only done at those windows. So I would never do it on a weekend. Like there's no way I'm going to break something on a weekend.
Right. Yeah. So thankfully, when we did a lot of the updates for the bank, it's bankers hours. So a lot of times going into the evenings after 5 p.m. or something like that, we could update systems and stuff like that, or Sundays, because no banks are open on Sundays to my knowledge. These not Bank of America banks. So those were the, we could do all our updates on the servers and whatnot on the 6 p.m. on, and Sundays usually is when we did them, if it's something major that had to be done.
Yeah. And Prophetic's also reminding us to make sure we update our distro boxes too. I only update those when I feel like it. Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting article that I wanted to share with the masses. All right, so here's another article you may find interesting. But Google has lost their loses in court and faces trial for collecting data on users who opted out. So did anybody here ever think that Google actually was going to honor their privacy policy?
I mean, does anybody
Absolutely.
actually honor their privacy policy?
You did? All right, so a federal judge rejected Google's motion to throw out the class action lawsuit, alleging that it has invaded privacy of users who opted out of functionality that records users' web and app activities. A jury trial is scheduled for August of this year in U.S. District Court in San Francisco. The lawsuit concerns Google's web and app policy, web and app activity setting, with the lead plaintiff representing two subclasses of people with Android and non-Android phones who opted out of tracking. The WAA button is a Google account setting that purports to give users privacy control over Google's data logging of the user's web app and activity, such as user searches and activity from other Google services, information associated with the user's activity, information about the user's location and device, wrote a U.S. District Judge Richard Seaborg. Seaborg, the Chief Judge of the Northern District of California. So Google says that the web app activity saves your activity on Google sites and apps, including associated info like location, to give you faster searches, better recommendations, and more personalized experience in maps, searches, and other Google services. Google also has supplemental web app and activity settings that the judge's ruling refers to as SWAA. It's going to be switched on if WA has also been switched on. It governs information regarding the user's Chrome history and activity from the site, apps, and devices that use Google services. Disabling WAA also disables the SWA button in the judge wrote. So Google sends their data to developers. So I just assume everything I do on Google, like if it's maps, whatever, has always been given away and has no privacy associated with it. Is that is that an unreasonable position?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if people turn it off and an update pushes through and turns it back on again. So what is it? Is it the user's responsibility to check after an update that it's still the same setting? Or, I mean, and then you're using all these free services. So if you're using these free services, I suppose that they expect to get some money out of it, right? Isn't that where the stance is? I mean, we all know how they work, don't we? The whole lot of them. We know how it works, right? They get
Right.
money from free services, right? I mean, that's the way it goes, isn't it? And those free services can be pretty handy, I must say.
Yeah, and they got to make their money somehow. I mean, it's not free to run servers and buy hardware and everything else. So, I don't know. It's a tough one. Because on one hand, I appreciate the free. But on the other hand, I'm also willing to pay for certain things. So, I mean, I do pay for YouTube Premium. But again, everything I look... If I press like on something, I expect that anybody who digs into my username would be able to figure that out and so forth. I just assume that when I go on somebody else's website or whatever, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like being in public. You can't. What are you gonna do? Wear a bag over your head? I mean, you're gonna have the interactions that you have in public. Well, you can, but I mean. There is a reasonable assumption of privacy in certain situations, but being on someone else's website is like being in someone else's building. I mean, you're not controlling what's happening there, and of course, if it's unreasonable or if there's some harm being done, then yeah, that's not fair or proper. There are laws for that, but. I'm with you. Like any interaction I have with the website, I assume that if they want to, they may not be, but if they wanted to, that they could capture all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not really sure. I know there are laws and such that do protect privacy. We have a right to privacy, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this game should be played. I don't know. I think
it's to me it's less about if that website I chose to go to that website, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I interact with that website knowing that I have some reasonable expectation that they're at least watching what I'm doing or can capture certain things, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with selling and sharing data with a third-party system like data brokers that has no oversight and basically makes it such that the data that I gave to, let's say, that website now that isn't on that website anymore. They've sold it. So that part of it, I think, is sleazy. So if they're trying to sell it to make money to a third party, then I don't agree with that because, I didn't go to that third party. They're making an assumption, or again, this comes to those privacy policies and stuff where. Oh, well, it was in there where it said we can just collect this data and then sell it. If that was any part of this, then I have that amount of sympathy, I guess.
Eris.
I was going to say that as far as I know, there is no such thing as a privacy law in the US. We do have like privacy for medical stuff. And it's more for like liability, I think. You can like sue if, let's say, somebody steals your like your social security number, but then you would have to bring the lawsuit. It's not like automatic and all these things. But in Europe, they do have better privacy laws. But in the US, as far as I know, overall, we do not have anything close to a privacy law. It's implied in the Constitution, but it's not an actual law.
Well, I think that's supposed to be the burger biggies as far as laws.
Except for the phone laws, if it's two-party state or one-party state, both parties have to agree to recording, or only one party has to agree. That I guess that could be counted as a privacy law. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a funny one. I think for me, I don't care if you watch me, what I'm doing when on your site, but I really don't want you tracking me and selling that to somebody else. But then, I guess it kind of depends on when they're selling the data, what of the data are they selling? Like in totality? Or are they selling... So like, for instance, if you're selling data that says certain like demographics or interests, I don't know. I'm not really sure like where the line is there. It's kind of confusing to me.
Mm.
No idea. All right, and now one last story here before I give Ben 30 seconds. There is a new Bitwarden client. Has anybody noticed the change in Bitwarden who uses it?
No.
The UI I think is kind of terrible. I know a lot of
really?
people have said they liked it, but so my biggest beef is the web extension, where you used to be able to just click an item and have it fill the page.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have multiple for certain sites like Google. I've
Yep.
got, and so now you have to click this little weird fill button with a single pixel outline. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's really weird. It just seems like they got all done and they're like, oh crap, we forgot to add the fill button. It's so I think the Android one is much nicer than the other one. It is a lot faster and it is much nicer in terms of the UI. But I guess the complaint I have then is the browser. I don't. Which has a new UI as well. So I guess it must have been refreshed. But yeah, I think they kind of did a bad job.
So I was going to say, as far as the UI is concerned, I understand your complaint on that one. Oh, wait, actually, the article basically says Bitwarden releases a native mobile app. That's what it is, and I think and that was there was an additional editor's note on the 15th of January, but I just want to really quickly, they improve the performance via snappier UI, faster screen transitions, and button responses, a smoother, more responsive interface tailored to mobile platforms, a more intuitive experience that aligns to the operating system, so users interact with the app using behaviors on which they are already familiar, a general boost to security and privacy since native apps access integrated security features that are platform specific, and they want your feedback, Eric.
Oh, okay.
They didn't say the general, but they want your feedback.
Well, the native app I think is pretty slick. So I'll give them that feedback.
I can understand a complaint about the fill thing. Actually, I kind of like the fill button, but that's just me. What I do like is if I click away from it now, it keeps my place. So before on the browser plugin, like if I had opened something, like let's say I open a whatever, and then if I click away, it would disappear. And historically, I would click on it and I'd have to re-find whatever it is I was using, and that was really annoying because if I copied the username and password, which are sometimes more complicated, I'll just say, so I have to copy the username as well. Then I'd have to re-find it. So there was a process to do that. So I would typically just like bring the application up to the side, and not use the browser plugin as much. But I feel like this change has made the browser plugin way more usable for me. But I can see your complaint about the fill button, because just clicking on the whole thing before would do that. But my complaint for me, maybe because you're used to it, because like I didn't actually like that. I like to be able to click on it and just have it open it up, as opposed to fill what I'm doing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I got you.
So anyway.
Yeah, different strokes from different folks. Like, listen, I was a product manager and oversaw a lot of UI, UX kind of stuff, and you could never please everybody. It just as simple as fact is that people have preferences, and
maybe if they had a larger fill button for you.
it just seems so amateur compared to the rest of it. Everything else seems so like well designed and put together, and then it just has this like really basic like 1 pixel outline. I don't know. That's the web designer in me looking at that and going, wow, that's really janky looking. It also doesn't scale very well if you're using this is something I've noticed. If you're using a monitor or you're using your desktop at different fractional scaling, like it just goes all crazy. So I think there's some test cases, some use cases that they haven't considered. So anyway, it's fine. But it actually did annoy me enough that I considered using Proton Pass, because I have the Ultimate package or whatever it is, and could use Proton Pass. I actually did look at it and have considered doing that instead. And I was going to ask if anyone uses Proton Pass and if they like it or don't.
I use Proton Mail. I haven't used the Proton Pass part of it. I use KeyPass XD.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I use that
mainly
too.
because I'd rather have my passwords stored offline, not online.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And KeyPass XC is actually pretty awesome because you could use it for desktop applications as well if you want to do bills and stuff. Yeah, it's a little better than the Bitwarden client. Anyway,
So
yeah, I don't know. Like I've been using Proton more and more just for their documents and different things. So kind of thought maybe. Sorry.
So Run of the Dolphin says that there's a setting in the Vault settings for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't found it yet, or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I'll find it.
So, you might make you happy again.
Maybe.
Anyway, I like Bitwarden. I've been using it, and looks like at work we'll be switching to Bitwarden here fairly soon too. So
that's awesome. I'm very curious to hear how that goes. Especially for people that have never used password managers. I've tried so hard over the years to get everyone I know to use a password manager, and they don't.
Well, if you want to be annoyed by password manager, like just for fun of it, like if you want to just move your Vault over into something that you'll absolutely hate and regret using, try Keeper.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I will, but sure.
Yeah, I know. Not to
oh,
poo-poo
click
on
items to autofill on Vault View. Ooh, thank you, Dolphin. Dolphin's my hero.
He is. Well, actually, he's a lot of people's hero.
Oh, that is so awesome. The ugly fill button is gone, and yes, I can just click the item. Dolphin solves my problem. What a guy. Yeah. No wonder MX Linux is top
why
of
he's
Distro
Dolphin. Anyway.
All right. So let's do a quick community free pour. I guess you want to have a quick announcement. Just make it a teaser, not a full explanation.
We'll do our best,
teaser.
Nate.
What's that?
So I was just gonna say, over the past week or so, I have been working on the next version of StormOS. Ricky and I are going to test it after the show. And so to keep things quick, like you suggested and requested, I've stripped out some of the packages that made it huge, like the NVIDIA drivers have been moved to Calamares, as have some of the base packages. So that way it's now 2.7 gigs versus the massive 3.5 that it was last time. And so, yeah, it's smaller now. And another thing that was kind of frustrating to me was having 3 different editions. So per Sravan's suggestion, I decided to cut away the Gen 2 and the Manjaro versions, and I'm sticking to the Arch version only henceforward. So there's no more going to be any extra editions. It's just going to be the Arch version going forward. So.
And if I may get my 2 cents in on this, Ben, I think going forward, that's like the best decision because one thing I've been noticing with a lot of these distro maintainers, from what I've been seeing, is a lot of them either have 1 edition or 2 editions or 1 edition or free, but I think in my honest opinion, just going with 1 edition, just the Arch one, nothing else is better, because if you have too many editions, it's just going to get confusing to people because they're not going to know which one is the main addition to go with. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like a sensible idea to the group here?
Yeah, of course. I've been saying that for
All right.
years now, Ben.
Yes, you're right. So that's what that's what my group and I are gonna do going forward. So just want to bring you guys up to speed on that idea and that kind of thing.
Oh, good.
And also one more trivial reason: the more additions you have, more testing you have to do. It's horrible.
It's terrible, you're right, Sravan. But yeah,
Thank you.
what the hey, you're right. Everybody's here's been right. We're sticking to the Arch version. That's it going forward.
Mm-hmm. And just letting you all know, me and Ben are gonna test this, and I'm gonna make sure that Calamaris indeed 100% works. Because in past releases, whenever I've tested StormOS, 95% of the time Calamaris was always broken. I'm gonna make sure that Calamaris is not broken with this one.
Right. Either way, we don't want to suck up the rest of our time, so
Yep.
that's our update for this week. So
Well, excellent. I hope that the additional focus will make for a better
update.
project. All right. Well, is that time for last call? I don't know, Eric, if you had anything you wanted to share for the good of the group.
But I do have to get to work with Ricky, so we're gonna go ahead and peace out, guys.
All righty.
All right, Ben.
Peace
take
to
care.
the out.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
No, short and sweet. I really don't have anything. So go ahead.
All right. That's good. Steve's very own was in the chat, and he also provided me some great advice through his streams and finding Deskflow. So join his streams for other nuggets of good advice, or of not advice isn't the right word, nuggets of something to chew on.
Useful
I guess
information.
useful information. There we go, Jason. Thank you. This is why I have you, so I can check that out. I don't know, Sean, if you had anything you want to share. I know you're working on a flat pack. Is how that's going?
Right. So for Orca Slicer, there it looks like there has actually been movement on an official release of a flat pack for the next version. You can get the nightly releases, and that has a flat pack in it. So it looks promising for Orca Slicer to be moving forward with a flat pack in the future.
Excellent. Well, that'll be nice because then I can stop downloading app images. Not that there's anything wrong with app images. I like app images, but I feel like the rate at which Orca Slicer is moving, Flatpak would be better suited, I guess. Excellent. Hey, if you haven't checked out Linux User Space in a while, they're back. Check it out. They also, I think, was it Tuesdays or Wednesdays they record? I can't remember. I joined them one time. Not last week, but the week before. It was a good time. So
I think it's Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. Was it Tuesday? I felt like it was a Wednesday, though. I don't know.
Those 2 days. Keep an eye.
So it's sometime between Monday and Friday. Anyway, check out Linux User Space. I enjoy their live streams because they're interactive. I know, Jason, I think I saw that you told Dave that you're going to join tomorrow for the Vintage Apple Tech group.
Yep.
It's kind of like this, except they use StreamYard. No, what do they use? I don't know. I think they've changed it a few times.
Streamlabs, I think it is.
Streamlabs instead
Yep.
of Zoom. And they work on their stuff, chit-chat. It's kind of like sitting on somebody's virtual couch as they work on their vintage tech.
Floppy drives, whatever.
It's good times. I sometimes join too when I can. Not this last week because I was
playing.
traveling.
I was playing Magic the Gathering last week.
Yeah, I was traveling last week. I did watch though. I lurked, I should say. Colin, Do you have anything exciting going on?
No.
Not yet.
No, that was definitely a
That's just a
definitive
bit-
no.
Oh, just always got something to do. Hopefully, see how we go. One day.
Oh, I see. I can't let this one go. So Scrub
Don't
Go
read it.
says, I would try it. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm a newbie. I'm replacing my broken Mint with SUSE for personal reasons. That sounds delightful.
And it, I believe, is StormOS.
Oh, it was
He was
StormOS?
talking with
Okay.
Ben. Yeah, he was talking with Ben.
Oh, okay. Well, I just saw SUSE and I got excited.
Yeah, I know. I saw it too. And I was like, oh, Nate's gonna see this.
So, let's see here. And then I have a website called cubicule8.com. Wait, does anybody else, Servan, do you have anything you want to say? I don't know if you had something exciting in the ARM world, the single board computer life.
No, I've not been doing anything. I've started working on something, but there's not been much progress in 2 weeks. If I have something, I'll let you know.
Okay. Jinda. Did I ask Jinda already? Did Jinda? Did Bobby?
Nah, I got nothing going on. I'm just doing the same nerd stuff I always do.
That's good. That's good. That's good nerd stuff. How about you, Eris? Anything exciting going on this week for you?
No.
No. That's good. Sometimes not exciting is good. So I have a website called cubicule8.com. I recently released an article for fixing or troubleshooting this ignition. Jeez, I can't remember what it's called now. I have to go to cubicule8.com to remember what it's called. Jeez. There you go. So this Ignition Vision client launcher. So I was doing some work this week in a plant, and they're using something called Ignition for managing their automated systems. And so I got to become very well acquainted with it. And they have a Linux client as well as Windows. And I think they might have Mac OS too. I can't recall. I think they have Mac. Anyway, so the Vision client launcher I set up no problem on my laptop, but since I'm not on site and things are cut off from that, I can't, that VLAN is totally cut off from the scary internet. I can't access it remotely. But so I have a VM virtual machine set up that kind of bridges things off, and I want to be able to watch things as I need to whenever. Doesn't happen all the time. And it wouldn't install. Took me a bit to figure it out this morning, and so I wrote a very short article on how to get the client launcher to work on OpenSUSE. I think that was a tumbleweed VM. But the information may carry to others. So if you have any issues with Vision Client Launcher, if you're in the automation area somewhere and you use OpenSUSE, there's probably at least 2 or 3 of you out there probably not watching this. Anyway, I got the solution. So you can check that out if that helps you out. I like to write things, when I have time. So Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation in both the Zoom meeting as well as the YouTube stream, and for everyone watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone that's involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.
Bye.
Night all.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
I want to be a real
Later.
boy.
Are you Pinocchio?
Adios.